It is the second model introduced in the Certain Scientific Railgun collaboration of 2023. It is TKR01 Monokuro Twin, with a kit of mobile cooler, high blow, cross shock, light legs, and the leg ability of Soaring, which is a brand new leg ability that buffs all leg stats minus armor and heavy limit for every melee skill used, stacking up 5 times. Now, as the second model introduced in the collaboration, Monokuro Twin is most certainly picking up right where Mikoto Ace left off when it comes to introducing a lot of very powerful skills, not just to the game as a whole, but also to the female gender type role and the library available at the current time, to make even mono-female teams as powerful and as menacing as even gender and or male teams in many cases. Mobile Cooler on the head is a support-based skill that, once activated, basically serves as both cooler and mobile boost in one fell swoop, which means both stats will get a 50% buff to herself and all allies as long as the buff remains intact and active. That means that if you weren't already going fast before, now you most certainly will be, especially when you're running back from the line to receive your next order. And on bots that specialize in high acceleration, much like this model here, that only makes her even more of a speedy threat on the field once she gets those buffs going. High Blow on the right arm is a conventional melee skill that grants a passive and positive bonus effect upon attacking the target, and that is, upon inflicting damage, you will apply a stack of Conceal to self, which means that as long as this buff is active, any incoming pierce damage or AoE damage is negated and diverted to one part exclusively, and in addition to this, it will also boost the user's evade by about 30 to 50%, making it even more so likely that they are going to graze the incoming attack without a doubt. Cross Shock on the left arm, we've seen only just a handful of times, but its viability in current meta very easily speaks for itself. It is a scattered AoE attack similar to Gatling or even Claw in many cases, where it will damage one part normally and then 2 others at random at 1/3 damage. But, for folks that are well versed in the loop and know what Cross Shock is capable of, it does come with an added bonus and a little bit of an extra kick to it. Every use of Cross Shock is guaranteed a critical hit no matter what, which means even with that scattered damage, you are going to be laying on the pain very, very easily with every hit you do, with very minimal, if any, cooldown penalties after using it. Flight Legs means that she will have very good a very high base mobility and evade, and when it comes to, and very mixed terrain compatibility to a point, but that also where she starts kind of falling off the ladder as well. A mobility of 1095 and an evade of 2132 are both fantastic numbers. The over 1000 for the mobility is par for the course for a good female flight leg, and the evade is arguably probably one of the highest base evades that we've seen for a flight leg and yet of any flight leg that is not a meta change capable that morphs into it. However, with a melee resist of 312 and a shoot resist of 266, that is unfortunately where she starts falling short, as it means no matter what kind of attack it is going to be immensely, and I mean immensely painful to any hits that do land on Monokuro Twin. Even if she does have armor or defender to back it up, or even with High Blow to help keep the damage controlled, it's going to break something no matter what. And that's not even factoring in if it is an anti-air skill. And if it is, well, she may as well no longer be there and start digging her grave early in that case. When it comes to armor, as expected of a flight-legged model, she is pretty light in that department too, with a head HP of about 3000, right arm about 2750, left at 2850, and the legs at 2500. Very light HP pool, which, like I said, is par for the course for a flight-legged model, but it does mean that she has paper armor and even worse defenses, which makes using her a little tricky, and a lot of caution is going to be very grossly encouraged if you're going to use her. This being said though, as a pure set score, I still do have to rate her a pretty solid 7.5 out of 10. Her kit does synergize very well with each other despite the shortcomings and the very unforgivable melee and shoot resist stats in this case. Soaring does synergize very well with both of her arms, so she can kind of, emphasis on kind of, make back some of those really low numbers as long as she can stack enough buffs with melee parts to actually comp it. But if anyone takes her out too early, well, that is kind of the end of it. Plus, the mobile cooler does tie in very well with her already very high base mobility and pretty solid cooldown skills too, as it means that as long as she is allowed to reign free on the field, she is going to be very fast no matter which way you put it. As mixed parts, I do have to rate her equally at a 7.5 out of 10 as well, primarily for the fact that even though her legs have horrendous melee resist and shoot resist stats, despite the tempting to evade and mobility, I would honestly encourage swapping those out for something with a little more bulk to kind of help guarantee more survivability, because she has very powerful skills, but she doesn't have the defenses in order to allow her to use them for long periods of time. Now, much also like Mikoto Ace, Monokuro Twin also is packing a lot of very handy skills such as Cross Shock, which originally we've only seen exclusively on a Gender End model, Unit 2 from the EVA collab, and a male model, Hell Magnate from the boss type Yokai series to date, which means this model will be the very first to date that will be put on that will have Cross Shock on a female-based model, which alone very easily will speak for itself to how viable she can be on the field once the timer starts.